KKB in Papua until now can still roam freely. Many KKB members are not recognized by the Indonesian National Police. When they meet the TNI, these KKB members often lie and cover up their identities, like the story that happened recently. This story happened when the TNI Tengah soldier carrying out a patrol. That morning a team consisting of TNI Polri soldiers patrolled a village in the interior of Papua. When they had walked quite far from the security post, the TNI Polri soldiers coincidentally saw a man who was not far from where the soldiers was there. The man's face was unusual for the Indonesian National Police. Because they were often met at every opportunity, they also often gathered together when they were in the village. Because of that factor, when they passed each other in the middle of the forest, the Indonesian National Police soldiers also held out cigarettes, something that is usually done when gathered together with the community. All of this was revealed from a video that is now viral on social media. This viral video shows the TNI Polri soldier together with the man when they meet in the middle of the forest. The surprising thing that can be seen from the short duration video is that the man refuses the soldiers offering TNI Polri. He reasoned that he had stopped smoking in the last few days. That reason seemed to be made up because a few moments earlier the man was seen throwing away cigarette butts when he had not realized that TNI Polri soldiers were near him. For the TNI Polri, the attitude of men, it was not questioned. It's just that there was something that bothered the minds of the enforcers of the sovereignty of the Republic of Indonesia, because when asked what he was doing in the forest, the man answered he was working in the garden, even though the equipment he was carrying was not a machete but a bow and arrow. It was not like usual. His eyes were running with an attitude that was no longer friendly. Seeing the change in attitude, the TNI and Polri soldiers did not mind it. The man was allowed to continue his work if he was really clearing the grass in the garden, so the soldier in the camouflage uniform chose to continue his journey towards the hills when he was at a rather high place. The TNI Polri soldiers tried to detect the situation around the forest area, including looking back at the man. How shocked he was when, from behind binoculars, the TNI Polri soldiers saw the man already with several other men who carrying a firearm. The man even headed to the place where he ran into TNI Polri officers who were on patrol. Still through binoculars, 3 of the KKB members were seen holding rifles and ready to shoot the KKB members. If after meeting the man, the TNI Polri soldier then took another road to the intended hill, because the KKB members thought that the TNI Polri soldier was still on that path. They were also getting ready to attack at that moment, targeting a small stone perched on a large rock, right next to the gunman, bearing in mind that the weapons used by the TNI Polri soldiers were silenced, so that even the KKB members did not know where the TNI Polri ammunition came from. OPM then fired retaliatory shots which were carried out indiscriminately. Of course the retaliatory shots did not hit the target, namely the TNI Polri soldiers. It's just that the KKB members' shots endangered other residents who might be crossing the forest, by which TNI soldiers were forced to release ammunition towards the 3 gunmen who were opening fire. With just a few bullets when the man was finished, their bodies fell and rolled to the side, while the other 2 men, including the man met earlier Yang, whose bow and arrow were not harmed by TNI Polri soldiers. After the shooting incident, TNI Polri soldiers also chose to take a detour to return to the security post. When it was late afternoon, 2 men who were still equipped with bows and arrows came to the security post and reported about the shooting incident. What happened in the middle of the forest a few hours earlier? The 2 men reported things that were not true. They said that the TNI Polri had shot dead a civilian who was gardening in the middle of the forest. Both of them did not think that the one who received the report was one of the TNI soldiers who had just returning from the location of the shootout. From the report submitted, it was clear how the KKB commander's men in the land of Papua had distorted the facts. That's why when asked where the other man was, it was detected that he was with a KKB member who was shot in the middle of the forest by the 2 men. They couldn't answer it, scratched their heads, and the 2 men seemed to admit that the men didn't want to come together, even though they still insisted that the TNI Polri soldiers had shot civilians. When asked again what were the 2 men doing at the scene, again they couldn't answer. That's when the fact was revealed that during the incident the 3 civilians happened to be with KKB members. They had sat together after a few moments before meeting the KKB members at that place, but because the KKB members had already were shot, so they chose to go home and then came to the security post, because when they came to the security post the two men only brought bows and arrows, so the TNI Polish soldiers allowed the two of them to go home. To lighten the mood, before being allowed to go home the two men were invited to stop their actions so that residents do not panic over their actions. Perhaps because they realized that other people's actions were taken, the two men voluntarily surrendered their bows and arrows to the TNI Polish apparatus. A few moments later the two returned home without their traditional weapons, with cigarettes in their hands, walking while occasionally answering the greeting of the security forces.